All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to today's Policy Manthan discussion. As you all know, the topic for today's Policy Manthan discussion is going to be around a comparative study comparing basically Indian public schools and public schools of other countries. So before proceeding, I request you all to please write down the topic that you would want to be talking about in the chat box so that we can begin with our discussion today. All right, so we will begin our discussion. We will have Devesh first, and Devesh is going to be talking about education system in Norway. So yes, Devesh, you may go forward.
Yes, ma'am. First of all, good evening to all. We know education is the key to success for any country, and so access to quality and free education to its citizens is necessary for any country's economic, technological, as well as social development. Today, I would like to throw the light upon the education system which is prevalent in the Kingdom of Norway. Now, Norway is a Scandinavian country in Europe. Having a small population, the country's per capita GDP is almost 40 times that of India. Now, Norway follows the traditional Nordic economic system under which the country charges very high taxes from its citizens, but in return, they provide free education, healthcare, as well as welfare schemes to the people. Now, here, most of the schools, as well as the public universities, do not charge any tuition fees from the students. Now, the reason why Norway could develop such an organized education system is because until 2006, the government did not allow any private institution to run educational services in the country. All the schools were under the control of the local municipalities, and they all had to follow the same curriculum. So this strengthened the quality of education offered by the public schools in Norway. Now, education is compulsory for all children aged 6 to 16 in Norway, and its education system is actually divided into three parts. The first is the primary school, then comes the lower secondary as well, and then the upper secondary schools. The primary schools offer education from classes 1 to 7. During that span, the children are taught their lessons through playing educational games, learning social structures, and such creative methods. Then, with increasing standards, they are taught various academic subjects. The point to be noted here is that at this stage, the children are not given any sort of official grades. Instead, just some tests are taken so that the teacher can know whether the student is above average in performance or he or she needs some more assistance. So, this system, unlike in Indian schools, makes understanding and learning a more important priority compared to studying just for the sake of obtaining good marks and good ranks. This mindset actually helps the student learn more at an early stage. Then comes the secondary education, which is and the secondary education is actually mostly conducted in the local Norwegian language in Norway. While some other languages, like obviously like English and German, are also available. Sports and extracurricular activities are part of the curriculum in secondary education, and and very attractive part of the system is actually they focus on the technological learning of the students, and so the students there are actually taught a lot of computer skills, programming skills, so that they become industry ready in today's world. And for that, they are actually given free laptops by the public schools to all students, or for a small amount of fee. Then the another major aspect of the system is the integration of vocational education with the general academic studies at the secondary level. Vocational courses are actually offered in a 2+2 model system, where a student, after 2 years of school training, gets a chance for 2 years of apprenticeship and any workplace. Then Another important fact about Norway's education system is that it has a very low student to teacher ratio, which is around 12 to 13. While in India, it's the average is around 25, and in some popular states like Uttar Pradesh, it actually crosses 60. So, and then, sorry, ma'am.
No, there's some disturbance from somebody's end. I'm just trying to fix that. Yeah, that is fine now. You can continue.
Yeah. And another fact about the Norway system is that the children over there, school children, are not given loads of homeworks, and they do not have any system of private tuitions, which is very prevalent in India. So they get to spend most of the time outdoors learning extracurricular activities other than studies. And this importance on other than academic activities makes the children learn a lot more skills at their age. Sadly, in India, these sports and activities are not actually given much importance, and hence they are looked down upon. Part of the blame actually goes to the parents as well as the society, whose traditional norms dictate the students to pursue careers mostly in engineering or medical, like that. And the fruitful results of such an organized schooling system can be clearly seen from the fact that Norway has a literacy rate of 100%, while in India it's only around 77%. So finally, I would like to conclude by saying that there are many things which we can learn and apply from the Norway's education system. Just a second.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Divesh, for walking us through in detail about the education system prevalent in Norway, and by also comparing.
Last point to add.
All right, so I'm so sorry. I thought you completed. Yeah.
And India is actually a much vast and diverse country compared to Norway, and it has a lot more challenges to conquer in order to attain the education system which is at par with foreign countries. Some of the changes can be like better technical training and recruitment of teachers in public schools, increased implementation of vocational training in schools to nurture a very skilled workforce. Then the third can be increased importance of learning lessons and values instead of the pursuit of just marks and degrees. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you once again, Divesh, for your detailed insights on the education system in Norway, and also the comparison with India, or with the little comparison that you did with India. So now moving forward, we will hear it from Vasanti, as Vasanti is also going to be talking about one of the Nordic countries. So we will hear it from Vasanti. So yes, Vasanti, please go forward.
Good evening, everyone. My topic is Finland's education system. According to reports, Finland has one of the finest education system in the world. Recently, we have news that Delhi government and Kerala government wanted to engage the teachers with the Finland education system so that they can bring the respective changes in the education system. So that's where my curiosity grew, and I started looking into Finland's education system. Well, I'll start with the curriculum. Here in India, mainly government agencies look up to the curriculum, but in Finland, it's teachers and students who engage with the curriculum. And I'll get into grades system now. Well, we are well known about the Indian grade system, but in Finland, they look at the holistic development of the child. They hardly have exams. They have single exam in a year, but here in India we have a lot of assignments with a lot of assignments. Next, I'll get into this extracurricular activities. In India, we hardly find time to engage in extracurricular activities, whereas in Finland, students are mandatory, are compulsorily need to engage with the extracurricular activities. Well, we start our education probably at the age of 3 here in India, but in Finland, they start at the age of 6, when child will have some knowledge about communication, etc. And since India has a very vast population, when we compare it with the Finland's population, it's difficult to implement things. But first, we need to change the mindset of the people towards our education system. We are very much engaged with rote system. We just read on things. It's not only about reading things. It's more about how we engage with other activities also. It's not just about the books. And if in Finland, students are taught using practical methods, and they're encouraged to use their common sense, mainly the rationality, logical sense. Uh, the main difference I can find from Finland's education system and India's education system is the capacity to explore. Finland education system gives students that free will to explore things. They're they're not restricted in a way, and well, even I can also find differences in teacher trainings also. In Finland, entry into teacher education is one of the most competitive among any field in higher education. Teachers are also also undergo continuous on-the-job training programs, and yeah, they don't have any kind of system like failing students. Like here in India, we usually find teachers fail students, but in Finland there is no system of failing students. It's like they propose equality in that so that no student gets discouraged. Well, yeah I'll get into this homework. We get a lot of homeworks in India, but in Finland they hardly get homeworks. It's all about the students' free will to explore things in Finland. Though it's different to integrate those ideals in our system, but to an extent we can change the mindset of the people to get habitual to the other systems instead of just writing the books and all that stuff. Um, and yeah, uh, in Finland, student teacher ratio is they hardly balance the student people ratio, but in India we find differences in student people ratio, like also in the infrastructure we find differences. Yeah, in Finland we have this only 9 years of compulsory education. It's uh, it's up to the student to decide after 9 years of education to whether to continue education or not. And again, yeah, like what I went on to understand is they mostly focus on the holistic development of the child rather than just uh, trying to impart on single profession. Like our education system, our parents just tell us to become doctors, engineers, instead of just imparting those kind of things in our minds. We can get on to the holistic development of a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasanti. Um, Next is just a second. Thank. Can Vasanti go next? Sorry, Vasanti just did, right? I'm sorry. I'm a little all over the place. Who's going next? Javia, can you go next?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I'll be talking about education system in Denmark versus India. So starting with Denmark, the term they use for it is lifelong education, which I'll come back to later after a few points. Now, in Denmark, children begin public daycare as early as 9 months. And by the age of 3, 98% of children in Denmark are attending public kindergartens. At the age of 6, Danish children begin their formal schooling, which is the educational approach in Denmark avoids class rankings and formal tests. Now, in the past few discussions, also, I guess it was Finland and Norway, we also saw it there that, in other countries also, there is this thing of, avoiding a lot of competition and a lot of tests or a lot of homeworks as well. Instead, children work in groups and are taught to challenge the established way of doing things. Now, teachers they emphasize on problem solving and not memorization. So if we look at our current education system, we all also have had personal experiences in schools where we've had to learn tables, or we've had to learn a certain syllabus. So mugging up is the definition of education right now. Like even in colleges also, till the very last day, it's just mugging up and doing it just for the sake of it. So in that, I guess education, the real meaning behind education is somewhere lost. Now in Denmark, public schooling is very much popular over there, as opposed to India. If you see over here, public schooling is not seen as a good way of teaching or educating your kids. So people who can afford private schoolings, they usually want that their kids go to private schools and all of that. So if you can see, there is a bit of stigma from like a kid going to a public school, public government school, and like a kid attending a private school. So there is that stigma also that is involved here. Now, near the end of their primary school, Danish children take a nationwide test to help them choose the next step in their education as well. So in India, like from personal experiences also, you're not properly guided like from the start to the beginning as to what you should do or what you should pursue. So it's all over the place. That means you're taught everything, but at the same time you're just as confused as what to do. And this is not only the case with public, it is the case with private as well. Now, more practically oriented pupils often prefer a trade school that can train them in high paying skills. So I think in Germany also, vocational training is quite popular. So it's not the very conventional way for people to pursue, like a proper educating, like training and then going for jobs. People sometimes want to prefer vocational trainings and directly, do some skill-based jobs or things like that, which is not very popular in India over here. If just a second. Um, if we look at the statistics, we can see that highest education completed amongst the population in Denmark, it was vocational education and training, which was 28.23% of the entire Denmark population. Primary education, 24.14%. And the numbers are pretty good as compared to India. Now, India is struggling, definitely. Like we are trying to achieve, there are also things like compulsory education. There are policies which the government is trying to implement so that, we can achieve. But somewhere, I believe, from the whole policy being administered to actually the policy taking place, the action of it, there's a lot of gap in that. And the final people who are suffering because of that are of course the kids who are attending the school. So in like the Rashtriya Madhyamik policy that we had to talk about, and that also the main target was that the schools should be near like a distance which is closer to the kids that are attending the school. So they are more, they do not drop out of schools just because of the reason that they have to commute to longer distances. But in action also till date, like we are slowly and steadily achieving the numbers, which is great, but we still have a lot of way to go. And one more factor that affects the whole thing, which people quite tend to overlook, is the population. Now, is population a big challenge? Because for Denmark, the population is, I believe, somewhere around 5 billion. And India has been like on top of like highest population. We have surpassed China as well. So population cannot, now this is another debate, but population can be a very, good um, like economic driver if we use that population correctly, and that starts with education. So we have to utilize the population, all the people, even like as of now, even the like most common people complete their education, all of it, but still, people are not able to find jobs and stuff. So somewhere that is also, that talent or that potential is also being wasted. Whereas in Denmark, if you see, everything, as I said, lifelong learning, which is a more like line or a, it is also in the one of the central policies also. They want to emphasize it in some or the other way. Like you can, there's no age or limit to learn. You can always learn, you can always increase your skills, all of that. So, and people are directly or indirectly involved in like the education like sector that there is. Whereas in India, like majority of us, even if you ask a kid right now, what do you want to become in future, like barely any of them say they want to be teachers, because it's literally one of the jobs that is very challenging. And at the same time, with teachers being underpaid, like, or sometimes they're not qualified enough. Now these are also some of the problems that people face. And at the same time, so it's not just one or the other thing, like one policy is being implemented and one of the things is being implemented. It has to be very cohesive. So people have to come forward. Every particular thing has to be in place for it to work. And definitely, like on the brighter side, we are definitely achieving. And considering that we have, like, India as a population, like from the independence till now, from where we were to where we have come to, it's definitely remarkable, and we are achieving numbers slowly and steadily. So I think that's the brighter side of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavya. Before moving forward, I would request everybody else to please switch on your cameras. I mean, there's just few people who switched on their cameras, and it would be really nice if you all could just switch on your cameras. So that way we could have a more interactive discussion, and you guys would equally benefit out of the discussion and the things that other speakers are speaking. So yes, that was from my end. Marina, could you please call upon the next speaker?
Yeah, sure. Mukul, can you go next? And what
Yes,
is your
sure.
topic? You would please quickly mention.
Yeah, education system in Germany comparison with India.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so shall I begin? Yeah,
Yes, please do.
so as you guys know, my topic is education system in Germany in comparison with India. So if we talk about education system in Germany, first of all, the public education system in Germany is not run by the federal government. It is run by the state government, the respective state. Apart from that, if we go to the structure of education in Germany, it is very different from India, where it is kindergarten, primary school, secondary high school, and then graduation. In Germany, it is kindergarten, primary school. After that, the fourth class, it is divided into four sections. The four sections are Hauptschule, Real School, Gymnasium, and Gesamtschule. These all are German terms, so I cannot pronounce it correctly. But to give you the gist of the idea, the HAP school is for less academic student, and the real school is for intermediate student. Gymnasium is for academic student, and there's one. The last one is for a comprehensive school, combining it combines the all education systems. So, and students are given options to consider which school they want to go. So there are a variety of options to go and learn in the German education system. In comparison with public education system in India, it is not possible because as well as private and public, we have the same system and structure of education there. So it is very different in Germany. That we can integrate for our students, because every student is different. Their learning skills, their learning abilities are different. So talking about fees and the financial aspect of education in Germany and India, we can see that the German education and public school are free of charge. They are mostly handled by the German government, financed by all the taxes they collect. Similarly, public education in India is also free, but people are not comfortable sending their kids to the public school, as due to social stigma as well as the quality of the education. in comparison with private and public education. So the private education in India is comparatively more. Apart from that, so if we talk about the investment in the education system, we can say that German education system or the government of the Germany is investing more in comparison with India. As India, by recent data, whatever I have collected, it says that 6% of GDP in 2022, India has invested 6% of its GDP in the education system. If we compare that to the 2020 data of Germany, it was more. It was 9.18% for just Germany. So as the Germany is fourth highest growing economy in the India, sorry, in the world. So the investment in comparison with India is more. Apart from that, if you talk about higher education system, let's talk about what they are doing after 10th. As the in India, the degrees are provided after 12th or after higher secondary education. In comparison with Germany, they are given vocational training after completing school, after 10th standard, and they can start with job, whatever the job they want. And the jobs are well respected there. So in case in India, it is not that we cannot pursue vocational training while doing our schooling. So after that, there are few. Let's talk about curriculum of Germany and India. What is the difference? So according to my research, that Germany and India, they are providing some similar subjects like mathematics, social science, and mathematics, social science, other subjects, and language. India is providing different languages, and you can see that there are different states. So different states have different languages. So they are giving different languages to all the schools. But in comparison with Germany, if you say Germany has one German language, and student can pursue one more foreign language. So that one similarity between German and India is the choice of curriculum or the choice of subjects. So that is one similarity. Apart from that, if you talk about the problem in education system, you can say that in India, the corruption is one of the most problematic thing in education system as comparison with Germany. I cannot collect the proper data, but the corruption in education system seems to be more than Germany. So that's it about my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mukul, for that comparison of German education system with Indian education system. And now moving forward, we will hear it from Sakshi. Sakshi is going to be talking about how is Indian school and foreign school different in terms of education and some solutions for the same. So yes, Sakshi, please go ahead. And also, just a second, Sakshi, I request others to please write down the topic that you would want to be talking about in the chat box so that we will have it easier to call upon next speakers. Thank you so much. Yes, Sakshi, please go ahead.
Okay, hi, I'm audible.
Yes, Sakshi.
Okay, so hi everyone. So basically, I'll be talking about how Indian schools are different from foreign school in terms of quality of education. So basically, education in India and foreign education are different in many ways, but that does not necessarily mean that one is better than other. Like by both systems have their own strength and weaknesses. In India, education is seen to secure a good job and improve one's social status, whereas the education system is heavily focused on rote education and learning with a strong emphasis on standardized testing. However, it is also known for a strong emphasis on traditional values and culture. Foreign education, on the other hand, is often seen as more progressive and innovative. It places a great emphasis on critical thinking and creativity and independent learning. This can lead to more opportunity for students to explore their interests and passions. However, it can also be, more expensive and less accessible to certain group of people. So, both education systems have their own unique features and benefits. And the best choice for an individual, I can say, will depend on their own need and preferences. So it is subjective to say that one is better than other. So basically, every education system is different in their way. But moving on with the quality of education in Indian schools and foreign schools, can vary significantly depending on various factors such as funding, infrastructures, also curriculum, and teaching methodologies. Whereas some of the key features we can talk about is like curriculum. In foreign schools, the curriculum is often more diverse, and focuses on more practical skills and critical thinking. Whereas we can see that in Indian schools, on the other hand, tend to focus more on theoretical knowledges and rote learning. So it does not focuses on practical skills. Moving on to the second a key point is teaching methodology. Foreign schools often use more interactive and student-centered teachings method, while we can see that in Indian schools they rely heavily on the solutions that can improve the quality of education. Um, the next factor can be the curriculum reform. The curriculum needs to be updated to focus more on practical skills and critical thinking, which should be more inclusive and diverse, covering a wider range of subjects and topic. So whereas these are the key factors or key differences, we can talk about foreign and Indian schools. To also moving on the solutions, one is curriculum reform, as I said, and second is teacher training, whereas teachers need to be trained in modern techniques, teaching methods, and techniques that promote student-centered learning, and so that the student and teacher can be engaged in that, and student would let the would obviously understand the topic much better. And they should also be trained as using technology to enhance the learning experience, as technology plays an important role for today's education. um the second is like infrastructure improvement. Schools need to have proper infrastructure. Foreign schools often have a better infrastructure with modern facilities, whereas well equipped classrooms, libraries, but Indian schools, especially in rural areas, may lack adequate infrastructure. Indian schools can invest in improving infrastructure such as classrooms, library, and labs to create a more um, creative session, so that the infrastructure would be better. In this infrastructure will be better, so that the education would be much better for students and more interactive. Moving on to teachers training, it is important to have a teacher which is professional, whereas teachers in foreign schools are often required to undergo extensive training and professional development programs to keep up with latest techniques, methodologies. Whereas Indian teachers training programs may not be so comprehensive. They some are teachers hired by without knowing that if they know the subject or not. We can see that. So it's very important to have teacher training to give a good quality of education, like in India. And the most important part is having fundings. Foreign school often have larger budgets and better emphasis on practical learning, whereas we can see that Indian schools cannot cooperate on practical learning methods such as project-based learning, field trips, and hands-on activity to help students understand concept better. Whereas we can see that Indian education focuses on field trips and hand-on activities, which is somehow very effective and creative sessions for students. Whereas we can see that foreign schools having larger budgets are basically focuses on many technologies and methods to learn. So we can see that there's a difference between both the schools in the structure, in the terms of education. So it's important to have funding so that it has proper infrastructures also and proper techniques or technologies for students to learn. And last is like professional development for teachers. Indian school can provide more professional development opportunity for teachers to improve their teaching skills and stay updated with the latest technique methodology. As I said, it's very important to have a technology and methodologies for students to understand the subject much better. Whereas foreign education is somehow advanced in this factor. So it's important to have those technology. And whereas we can see that despite of that, Indian education doesn't lack in any kind of term, in any kind of factors, in any kind of area, but just it's just little bit back. But still, if the government works on proper funding and infrastructure, Indian education can do much better than foreign education in foreign education. So that could so the students or the children could understand and learn much more about the subjects and topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sakshi, for walking us through the distinction between Indian school and foreign schools in terms of education, and also talking about different solutions. So as Srishti is also going to be talking about the distinction between foreign and Indian education. So I would request Srishti to please talk about the distinctions. And before moving forward, I request everybody else to guys, please switch on your cameras. And especially if you're speaking, so it would be very nice for you to please switch on your cameras. So yes, Rishti, please go ahead. Srishti, I hope I'm audible to you.
I'm audible?
Yes, Srishti, you're audible. Please switch on your camera. Srishti, is everything fine at your end? Please start off with the topic. I think there seems to be a problem at Srishti's end. So moving forward, we will speak. We will hear from other speakers. So we'll hear it from Pooja. Pooja is going to be talking about the Canadian education system. So yes, Pooja, please go ahead.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll be talking about the Canadian education system. As we all know, it is one of the richest countries. It ranks third in terms of wealth, and it is a fourth. It ranks fourth for the providing best education system. We all know that Canada provides a lot of scholarships, which to different students all across the globe, as it creates and it helps in Canadian education system to provide diversity and multicultural and to create multicultural environment. It focuses on providing quality of education. The education is divided into the curriculum is divided into three parts. First, it's primary schools, secondary schools, and post-secondary schools. Here, a major focus is given to the students' learning. The student learning, it makes sure that they are getting quality of education as they promote, as the curriculum is the topics that are discussed is based on 21st century skills such as topics such as innovative learnings, topics such as innovative learning, coding, robotics, which helps them inculcating values and imparting skills for the 21st century to face the challenges that might come in the upcoming situations. The literacy rate between male and female ratio is 99%. As GDP plays a very important role, 6% of Canadian GDP is taken out for the budget of education sector, which is a huge amount. If we'll see the infrastructure of classrooms and schools in Canada are very much high quality. High quality teachers are hired, and the salaries of those teachers are quite high, which act as an incentives for the teachers and focus on their jobs to do good in their job so that they can continue. It provides free education, and the education over there is compulsory. Students, child needs to start learning from sixth grade itself, and they need to be enrolled in the elementary schools until 18 years. The curriculum is designed. Okay, here kids and education. They create a platform where kids and educators both play a very important role. They create spaces where they create spaces where teachers, where practical learning is supported, critical analysis, infrastructure, and taken care of. Or yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Pooja. Now moving forward, we will hear it from Ojasvi. Just a second. Yes, so now we will hear it from Ojasvi. Ojasvi is going to be talking about the South Korean education system. So yes, Ojasvi, please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, Ojasvi, please go ahead.
So basically, when we talk about South Korean education system, usually we keep on hearing about the rigorous academic system that is there, and children spend around 16 hours. In most of the high school students, they spend around 16 hours studying in the schools, and later on, they join private tuitions for completing their education after 4 p.m. So I'll like to highlight some other factors that vary between Indian education system and South Korean education system, and some of the factors that maybe we can learn from South Korea and implement in our teaching system. First is earning of teachers. So teaching salaries in Korea are among the highest in the world. And the teachers, they earn around 1 lakh rupees. Most of the teachers, they earn around 1 lakh rupee per month. This is something that India needs to implement, because although teachers, they are putting lot many hours in schools, and they are one of the most important builders of the nation, but yet we give very little salaries to them, especially in the public schools. And another thing is that Korea has a special education system where the teachers, they are rotated every 5 years, so that no students, so that they are able to bridge the gap in the socioeconomic conditions, like the students who live in remote areas, they are able to get access to the teachers who are well qualified. So this is something that we can implement from we can inculcate in our nation. Like most of the times we see that mostly the teachers who are especially teaching in schools in rural areas, they're not willing, they do not generally come to schools, right? Most of the time there are schools where there are students, but there are just one teacher. So these type of schools, first of all, they need to close. All the Indian government has been taking efforts of improving this, but we also need to implement this rotation where where the teachers who are teaching in towns or cities, they get recruited to the schools in rural areas, so that every child gets equal access to education. South Korean system also has this initiative of job first and university later. That is, the students, they can get appointed for some job at an earlier age, and then they can pursue higher education whenever they want after getting a job. This also helps them to improve their competency skills. And something which we can so Korea, it spends around 15 to 20% of their total budget for education. That's a huge amount. I think education is one of the greatest asset for the nation if its people are educated, and if the human resources developed. So we need to focus on this part, like we should invest more in our education system. And but there is something that although India is also highly competitive, we have a lot of population, and there is high unemployment rate, yet still our students, they're not that much depressed if we compare that with Korea. We have higher population than them, but still the students, they go to private tuitions, but they do not spend as much time as the students spend in private schools, which are called hogwons in Korea. So and this is the reason that most of the Korea has one of the highest suicide rates among the OECD countries. So that's good that India, although even our students, they feel mental pressure, they have burden, but it's it's a good news that it has not reached to that level, and we should make efforts to ensure that education becomes less burdensome for the students. It does not equals to that of its South Korean counterparts. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Osasvi, for talking about the South Korean educational system. And now moving forward, we will hear from Manaswini. Manaswini is going to be talking about the limitations of Indian education in comparison with first world countries. So yes, Manaswini, please go forward and please switch on your camera before speaking. And I request other participants also to please switch on their cameras.
Problem with
yes, Manaswini, please.
So, in today's policy, I would like to discuss
Manaswini, sorry to interrupt, but you're not clearly audible. Maybe could you fix your microphone? Could that be?
Yeah, just give me a second.
Yeah.
And now is it audible?
Yeah, it's fine. Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. All right. So, in today's policy, Manthan, I would like to discuss few practices or strategies that are used by first world countries in comparison with the Indian education. Number one is the first world countries invest more on education. Their GDP, most part of their GDP is significantly higher compared to what we spend on Indian education. So this leads to a better funded school with modern equipment and qualified teachers. And the another thing that the first world countries do better than India is differentiated instructions. I mean, they identify what the student, uh, they identify what students should know and be able to do accordingly. Each student, the instruction is more personalized, and the integration of technology is also seen more in the first world countries. With that, the technical, literacy is very less in the first world countries. We can also observe a lot of professional development in the countries like the US, Canada, and Europe, where teachers are teachers have an access to teacher training programs and skill development cohorts, wherein teachers which allows teachers to continuously improve their skills and knowledge. We all have complained about mugging up in education system, right? So in the first world countries, the emphasis is more on creativity and problem solving rather than simply mugging up stuff. Now, first world countries also provide monetary, benefits for underprivileged children, which would be very beneficial if it's implemented in India properly. And one of the significant issues is that India is very vast and complex, and the disparity between quality of education between the rural and urban area is too heavy, which is not seen in other first world countries. Practical learning and limitations to vocational training can also be seen in India. If we try to implement and improvise our education system by taking inspiration from other countries, we would be in a good and we would be bettered with education by resulting in qualified people who can work better for the society.
Thank you so much, Manaswini, for talking about the limitations of Indian education with respect to while comparing with the education system of other first world countries. And moving forward, we will hear it from Akanksha. Akanksha is going to be talking about general comparison of different education systems of world. So yes, Akanksha, please go forward and please switch on your camera.
Good evening, everyone. So I'll discuss general differences between different types of schools in the world and how they are different from India. So basically, in French schools, there is a very distinctive feature, which is they do not allow religious dresses. So somewhere the path of being secular is laid in their school. The second distinction which we can see in Ireland schooling system is that most of the public schools there are Catholics. As, so because they are run by the church there. So that is an interesting fact which I came across when I was studying the Ireland system of schooling. The third distinctive feature which I saw in the Chinese school is they focus on memorization techniques, and they make sure that the children who are memorizing fast and have good memorization skills are given more opportunities. Then in Thailand, patriotism is focused in their schools. In German schools, we can see that no uniforms are they do not have uniforms in school, so which makes everyone identify their own identity basically, which is very different from other schools. Then in Bangladesh schooling system, we see that because Bangladesh is a very flood prone country, they make sure that the students should not be left out of education because of floods. So they have floating schools there, which are flood proof schooling system, which is very important because of the changing climatic conditions, which we should also keep in mind. Then in South Korean education system, as one of our colleagues already spoken, that they have long schooling hours, which is very tiring for students, uh, which is a negative point little bit there. Then in Netherlands, we find that as soon as the child turns to 4, he is entered into the formal education. And in Norway, basically very small span of graduation period is there. So that is also very attractive for them. And in Chinese school, we find moral education given focused on other things. So far to say that these all aspects are somewhere inculcated in Indian education system as well. I know it would be not right to compare different, uh, you know, uh, the Western, for to say that the first world country's education system with Indian education because of such diversities, but we should always take good things from them and try to implement in our best version, which is suited for Indian schools, but also the important factors which is making India lagging behind for not becoming one of the highest, literate country or uh, country which we should, which the world should see when they are talking about education system are the population, which we have to still figure out how to use that, because population can be demographic dividend, and if not turned properly could turn into demographic disaster. And we being the youngest country has to focus on the demographic dividend properly. The second important thing is investment of the percentage of GDP in education sector, which India has, in fact, in this year's budget, have said that 2.9% of the GDP would be contributed in the education system, which is more than the previous GDP allocated. And new education policy implementation from this year will take care of many lacunas which we already had. And the third is we need to understand in India, education is looked upon as a way to come out of the poverty. And that is the distincting factor which the other countries and India is having, because we have a lot of poverty, and the first generations, we still have so many families who are not even first generation graduates. So we have to focus on quantity first, then quality. This is what I personally. And the solutions for this could be joint implementation and joint efforts by both public and private sectors are very important in India, because only government cannot take care of all the solutions and problems in the Indian government. So private sector has to also come there to help. Then we also have to make sure that talented individuals are attracted to be a part of teaching process, because that is something which a person who does not have any job is then forced to become a teacher, which is a very wrong thing. And the third is that when education policies are implemented, discussion with the stakeholders of educations are very important. For example, parents, teachers, societies, industries, the children themselves. And with discussing them, we can have a holistic approach, which would definitely make worthwhile, worth taking changes in the Indian system. But I am very hopeful that new education system is going to new education policy is going to take care of the limitations which we just spoke. I'll say we are improving on so many factors. Indian Innovation Index is improving. We have different indexes which monitor different states on basis of the education systems which they have in their state. So we are making efforts, and just the thing is we have to have the speed of rabbit and focus of tortoise in developing the education system. And I'll end with the quote, which I find very important, which is related to education, is education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. With this, I'll end my discussion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Akanksha, for highlighting in some interesting facts from some of the countries. And I'm sure a lot of people would have gotten to know new facts about other countries. And also, thank you so much, everybody, for participating in today's Policy Manthan discussion. And we had a point raised from Kartikeya. Kartikeya was mentioning that it is not fair for India to compare the education models of India with other Scandinavian countries. So, of course, I mean, it would not be wise to compare the educational models directly, but as Akanksha said, that we need to be focusing on taking out the good aspects from their educational models and trying to implement at our home country, so that we could improve on the educational aspect further. Because moving away from the school education per se, if we talk about the number of research papers published in India, so there are enormous number of research papers that are published every year from India's, science and engineering colleges. But then when we talk about the actual innovation that takes place, that is very minimal. So we should be mindful of so many different things. And while people compare the educational models, the outright comparison might not seem appropriate to a few people, but then we should always be open to taking on some important and new aspects from other countries, so as to learn more from other countries' educational models and try to implement at our home country. So with that, thank you so much, everybody, for participating in today's Policy Manthan discussion.